श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविन्दा गोविन्द सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। नमो नमः सद्गुरुभ्यः सद्गुरुभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो नमः सद्गुरुभ्यः सद्गुरुभ्यो नमो नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुः तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। यस्वानुभावमखिलश्रुतिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपमतितितीर्षतां तमोन्धं संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यं तं व्याससूनुमुपयामि गुरुं मुनीनां। योगीन्द्राय नमस्तस्मै शुकाय ब्रह्मरूपिणे संसारसर्पदष्टं यो विष्णुरातममुमुचत कालव्यालमुखग्रास त्रासनिर्नाशहेतवे श्रीमद्भागवतं शास्त्रं कलौकीरेण भाषितम् एतस्मादपरं किञ्चित् मनःशुद्ध्यै न विद्यते जन्मान्तरे भवेत् पुण्यं तदा भागवतं लभेत्। ज्ञानवैराग्यसम्पूर्णान् हरिभक्तिपरायणान् पूर्वाचार्यातहं वन्दे सम्प्रदायप्रवर्तकान्। भगवन्नाम साम्राज्य लक्ष्मी सर्वस्वविग्रहं श्रीमद्बोधेन्द्रयोगीन्द्र देशिकेन्द्रम् उपास्महे। कलिकालोचितं धर्मं नाम संकीर्तनात्मकं निर्णेतुमवतीर्णं तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे। हरे रामेति कृष्णेति नाम संकीर्तनं सदा लोकक्षेमाय कुर्वन्तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयात् इतरतश्चार्तेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनं। श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यते प्रकृतिभिः शुश्रूषिभिस्तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। श्रीमद्भागवताख्योऽयं प्रत्यक्षः कृष्ण एव हि स्वीकृतोऽसि मया नाथ मुक्त्यर्थं भवसागरे। मनोरथो मदीयोऽयं सफलः सर्वदा त्वया निर्विघ्नेनैव कर्तव्यो दासोऽहं तव केशव। श्रीहरये नमः श्रीहरये नमः श्रीहरये नमः। गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविन्दा गोविन्द सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। Good afternoon, everyone. So let me just see what we were supposed to do today. So 11 from 19. Okay. Also, because it was only a 1 hour class. Okay. So 19 to 39 is what we did last time, right? Okay. So about 20 stanzas. Let me see here. So maybe Sindhuji, you can do one half, maybe 19 to 29, and then Srividya, you can do 29 to 39, 30 to 39.
कृष्णाय वरदे नमः। वारमुख्याश्च चदशो यानैस्तद्दर्शनोत्सुकाः लसत्कुण्डलनिर्बाधः कपोलवदनश्रियः नडनर्तकगन्धर्वाः सूदमागतवन्दिनः गायन्ति चोत्तमश्लोकचरितान्यद्भुतानि च भगवान्
Turn off the soldier.
I think you are doing
You're saying something.
18.
Please, 19.
Sorry, 19.
Varanendram.
1.11, 19 and 20. 1920.
Sindhuji.
भगवांस्तत्र बन्धूनां पौराणामनुवर्तिनां यदा विद्युपसङ्गम्य सर्वेषां मानमाददे श्लेषकरस्पर्शस्मिदेक्षणैः आश्वास्य चाश्वभागेभ्यो वरैश्चाभिमदैर्विभुः स्वयं जगुरुभिर्विप्रैः सदारैस्तविरैरपि आशीर्भिर्युज्यमानोऽन्यैः वन्दिभिश्चाविशत्पुरम् राजमार्गं गदे कृष्णे द्वारकाया कुलस्त्रियः हर्म्याण्यारुरुहुर्विप्रा स्तदीक्षणमहोत्सवाः नित्यं निरीक्षमाणानां यदपि द्वारकौगसां नवत्यभ्यन्दिः दृशः श्रियोधामङ्गमच्युतम्.
The second line first word, naiva tripyanti.
Oh, yeah. नैव तृप्यन्तिः दृशः श्रियोधामाङ्गमच्युतम् श्रियो निवासो यस्योरः पानपात्रं मुखं दृशाम् बाहवो लोकपालानां सारङ्गाणां पदाम्बुजम् सिदादपत्रव्यजनैरुपस्कृतः प्रसूनवर्षैरभिवर्षितपदि पिशङ्गवासा वनमालयौ बभौ घनो यदार्कोडुपचापवैद्युतैः प्रविष्टत्तु गृहं पित्रोः परिष्वक्तः स्वमातृभिः भवन्ते शिरसा सप्त देवकी प्रमुखामुदा ता पुत्रमङ्गमारोप्य स्नेहस्नुतपयोधराः हर्षविह्वलितात्मानः शिशिचुर्नेत्रजैर्जलैः.
Yeah, you can stop there. Thanks.
I can go, right?
Yeah, you can go, Shri.
अताविशत् स्वभवनं सर्वकाममनुत्तमं प्रासादायत्र पत्नीनां सहस्राणि च षोडश पत्न्यः पतिं प्रोष्य गृहानुपागतं विलोक्य सञ्जातमनोमहोत्सवाः उत्तस्तु रारात् सहसासनाशयात् साकं व्रीडितलोचनानाः.
And the last line, second half, Sakam Vratair Vridita Lochanananaha.
साकं व्रतैर्व्रीडितलोचनाननाः तामत्मजैर्दृष्टिभिरन्तरात्मना दुरन्तभावाः परिरेभिरे पतिं निरुद्धमप्यास्त्रवदम्भु नेत्रयोः विलज्जतीनां भृगुवर्य वैक्लवात् यद्यप्यसौ पार्श्वगतो रहो गतः तथापि तस्याङ्घ्रियुगं नवं पदे पदे का विरमेत तत्पादाच. சாரி, அந்த இடத்துல வந்து ஸ்டாப் பண்ணிக்கணும் இல்லையா?
It becomes a it there. Tat padat.
சாரி. पदे का विरमेत तत्पदात् वलापि यच्छीर्न जहाति कर्हिचित् एवं नृपाणां जन्मनाम् अक्षौहिणीभिः परिवृत्ततेजसां विधाय वैरं श्वसनो यथानलं मिथो वदेनो परतो निरायुधः स एष नरलोकेऽस्मिन् अनवर्तीर्नस्वमायया रेमे स्त्रीरत्नकूटस्थो भगवान् प्राकृतो यथा.
On the first line, after lokesmin, the next word becomes avathirnaswamayaya.
Avatir. स एष नरलोकेऽस्मिन् अवतीर्णस्वमायया उद्धामभावपिशुनामल वल्गुहासव्रीडावलोक निहतो मदो. Something is wrong over there. Sorry.
Yeah, and the hasa is the halfway point on the line there.
Sorry. उद्धाम भावपिशुनामल वल्गुहासव्रीडावलोकनिहतो मदनोऽपि यासां सम्मुह्य चापमज हात्प्रमोदत्मास्ताः यस्येन्द्रियं विमतितुं कुहकैर्न शेकुः तमयं मन्यते लोको ह्यसङ्गमपि सङ्गिनम् आत्मौपम्येन मनुजं व्यापृणवान् यतो बुधः.
Last word, vyaprinvanam.
व्यापृण्वानम् आत्मौपम्येन मनुजं व्यापृण्वानं यतो बुधः. एतदीशनमीशस्य प्रकृतिस्थोऽपि तदगुणैः न युज्यते सदात्मस्तैः यथा बुद्धिस्तदाश्रया.
And the last word, first line, last word, tad gunaihi, not tada, you said, tad gunaihi.
तं मेनिरे बलामूढाः स्त्रैणं चानुवृतं रहः अप्रमाणविदो भर्तुः ईश्वरं मतयो यथा. इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां प्रथमस्कन्धे नैमिष्योपख्याने श्रीकृष्णद्वारकाप्रवेशो नामैकादशोऽध्यायः.
Yeah, that you can, if you want to break it, you can say Nama Ekadashodhyayah. It's easier to say it. Okay, Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, so we'll start with 12 today. 12 is a relatively easier chapter. It's got about 36 stanzas, so we'll try to finish 12 today along with the meaning. So what we'll do is the 12 up to stanza 18, I will tell the meaning as a summary. Then where it says Brahmana Uchuhu, about like 15 stanzas there, I will try to say meaning per line because it might be easier to understand what is being said there. And then there is a quick summary at the end, right? So that's how we'll break this. So the first half we can have Gopiji, you can be a student, and Jayashree, Sri Ramlingan, then you can be a student. I'll first kind of give the summary of the meaning, right, up to like 18 or something. So previously, right, we kind of saw about how Krishna said goodbye to the Pandavas after the Mahabharata, all that, and then Krishna got welcomed into Dwaraka. That's what happened in the 11th thing, and the grand welcome he got was in the 11th chapter. So now we kind of go back to Naimisharanya, where the Suta Pauranika, the sages, along with Shaunaka Maharishi, everybody is all there, right? So the sage Shaunaka is asking to Suta Pauranika, like we were talking about this womb of Uttara, right? How the mother of Parikshit, how that womb of Uttara was like attacked by this, invincible Brahmastram, which actually happened at that time that Ashwatthama had released. And then Parikshit was actually saved by the Supreme Lord at that time. So he's kind of saying, how was this? You left the story at that point, right? That Krishna came and saved Parikshit. You left it at that point. But how was this Emperor Parikshit actually born? I've heard that he's a very great devotee, very intelligent person. So what happened to him? How did his death take place? What happened to Parikshit after his death? Right? So he says, that we also have heard that, of course, that Shuka Brahman, the great spiritual person, taught Parikshit everything that need to be known about all the spiritual knowledge. So please speak on this topic. That's what Shaunaka is actually asking to Suta Pauranika. Basically, they are saying, right, give me Parikshit Charitram. You never spoke about Parikshit's Charitram, right? And the reason they are saying this is important, like we've spoken about in the past, is you don't have to directly talk about Krishna or directly talk about any of the Devi, anybody. Even if you're talking about the surrendering devotees who are around that is equally important. Because what happens is every time you're talking about the devotees who are surrendering the Lord, no, around the Lord, they're automatically associated. So their life is not independent of the Lord itself, right? So talking about Parikshit is like talking about Krishna, because he's always going to be connected to Krishna, like we are going to see. So they want to know about Parikshit's Charitram, right? So although this Parikshit's thing was initially covered in 1.8 in the Canto 1, Chapter 8, we talked about it. But what happened was from there it got deviated, right? It went into, the punishment that Arjuna gave. We heard Kunti's Stuti came in between, right? And then the Pandavas went to meet Bhishma. So all of these things came about. So it kind of the topic got distracted. They're kind of coming back to that topic in this, right? So Susuta Pauranika then, gets into the topic of Parikshit's birth, right? But before he gets into Parikshit's birth, he talks about what happened when Krishna left Yudhishthira. So kind of he wants to just continue from there, close out the Yudhishthira topic. So he kind of says that, Yudhishthira then took over the kingdom. And once Yudhishthira took over the kingdom, he administered, very nicely. He was very generous. And he was exactly like, Pandu, who is his father, right? So although he did not have any personal ambition, he was always doing the right things, and he was always committed to the Supreme Lord. So that was kind of Yudhishthira's focus. So when he was doing things, even though he was not attached to it, naturally all good things were happening around Yudhishthira. So this kingdom was flourishing to the extent, it says that, the people who are the demigods, people who live in heaven, were looking at Yudhishthira and saying, what, he's so blessed, right? The kingdom is just prospering under Yudhishthira, right? Everything is actually working out so well for him, but Yudhishthira somehow doesn't seem to care about anything. He's just doing what needs to be done, and he's always committed to his kingdom. So he kind of setting the context that everything is going well with Yudhishthira, because that's going to change later in the next chapter, right? So they're kind of setting the stage that everything is going well with Yudhishthira, kingdom is prospering. So now comes back to Parikshit's story. So when this Parikshit was in the womb of Uttara, and then the Brahmastra had come from Ashwatthama, so the burning heat that was actually coming just even before the Brahmastra was coming there. So at that time, he could see that the Supreme Lord has come to protect him. So in this, very nicely in 8 and 9 stanzas, they describe what Parikshit saw, right? So it starts about Angushta Matram Amalam. He says the Lord was only the height of your thumb, right? That was the height of the Lord, because he's outside the embryo, right? So he's only a very small height. He's only the size of the thumb. But even though he was in the size of the thumb, he was full and spiritual. So it was not like only a portion of the body came. He was in his full form. And the full form we talked about is like a beautiful black body. He had the pitambaram, it was a yellow garment. And, his body was shining with everything that he was wearing. He still had Chatur Bhujam. He still came with the 4 hands, right? And then, his eyes were actually red. And then he was wearing the earrings. And then when the Lord was going around the embryo, the gadai of the Lord was also going around. So kind of both of them were circling that embryo constantly. So this was the vision that Parikshit actually saw when he was inside there. So it was the full form of the Lord that he was actually saw there. And it talks about how when you have like a drop of water, there's a drop of dew that is there. You don't need a sun to come and evaporate the dew. But if you have the full sun available to evaporate the dew, he says that's how it is. Even though Brahmastra was like so powerful, Krishna circling around the embryo was like a sun trying to evaporate the dew, which means it was just a very simple task, absolutely nothing. But he wanted to make sure nothing happened to Parikshit, nothing happened to the embryo. That's why he himself came in person to actually kind of protect that embryo. So now, when this child, right, Parikshit inside, was now observing this form of the Lord even before his birth, which is so hard for anybody to get, all of a sudden, the Lord disappeared, right? So suddenly the baby then lost the vision of the Lord, just like how Narada lost it in his mind. Suddenly Parikshit also now lost the vision of the Lord. Then later on, when the appropriate time comes, because of this everything being aligned, at that time Parikshit's birth takes place. So now here, because Parikshit is not only a great emperor, Kshatriya and everything, but he's also one of the greatest devotees. So, we all talk about, zodiac and astrology, right? So people say that, oh, because he's born in this star and this conclamation of this alignment, his jadagam is good, right? But it is actually works the other way around, right? Is whatever you are supposed to be getting, you're going to get based on your karma. But for those things to happen, certain alignment has to be there. So you have to align your birth to that. It is not the other way around, right? So that's what it says here also. Because Parikshit is going to be a great devotee of the Lord, good things are going to happen to him. So for good things to happen to him, the appropriate time of birth is important. So when the appropriate constellations were aligned, at that time Parikshit's birth took place. So when Parikshit was then born, so at that time, because he doesn't have, his father, right? Abhimanyu, of course, was killed in the battle. So of course, Yudhishthira being the oldest of the grandfather, he took over him as like his child, right? Because although he's his grandchild, he'll always be referring to him as a son because the father is missing, so he becomes the grandfather. So at that time, anyway, Yudhishthira, when Parikshit's birth happens, he then performs all the purification ceremonies and everything, and he calls all the to talk about Vipray Dhaumya Kripadibihi. So Dhaumya, Kripa, all of these great sages come, and then he does a lot of charity. He gives a lot of gold and land, everything to the Brahmanas, and then they then start doing when the child is born, like we saw for Krishna also, right? They came and then they did the horoscope of Krishna at that time. Similarly, here, when for Parikshit also, the Brahmanas then start coming and doing the horoscopes. So here he says they start telling about what. So of course, Yudhishthira has main question. He says is, will my son or my grandson here be an absolutely great king? But not only that, will he be a true devotee of the Lord? I just don't want him to be a great king who's going and conquering all these emperors, but is he actually going to be the right kind of person? And is he going to follow the right things? So they start off by telling that, this child, right, who was protected by the Lord himself when he was born. So there's no doubt about it. So he's going to be called as a Vishnu Ratha. Vishnu Ratha means the one who's protected by Mahavishnu himself. And he's going to become a Mahabhagavata. He's going to become one of the first class or greatest devotee of the Lord. So there's going to be absolutely no doubt about it. So, and then when Yudhishthira starts asking about, tell me how is this child going to be? So that's when from 19 onwards, the Brahmana Uchuhu, the Brahmanas then start comparing to how great this child is going to be, right? So now we'll stop at that 18 and we'll do the review till there. Okay, so Shaunaka Vacha Ashwattamnopasrishtena, comma, Brahma Shirshnoru Tejasa. So two ears coming. Shirshnoru Tejasa. Uttaraya Hato Garbha. So you put a visarga there in comma. Ishena Jibitah Punaha. Shaunaka Vacha Ashwattamnopasrishtena Brahma Shirshnoru Tejasa. Uttaraya Hato Garbha. Ishena Jibitah Punaha.
शौनको उवाच अश्वत्थाम्नोपसृष्टेन ब्रह्मशिष्णोरुतेजसा उत्तराया हतो गर्भः ईशानो जीवितः पुनः ईशेन जीवितः पुनः अश्वत्थाम्नोपसृष्टेन ब्रह्मशिष्णोरुतेजसा उत्तराया हतो गर्भः ईशेन जीवितः पुनः
सौनक उवाच अश्वत्थाम्नोपसृष्टेन ब्रह्मशिष्णोरुतेजसा उत्तराया हतो गर्भः ईशेन जीवितः पुनः सौनक उवाच अश्वत्थाम्नोपसृष्टेन ब्रह्मशिष्णोरुतेजसा उत्तराया हतो गर्भः ईशेन जीवितः पुनः
तस्य जन्म महाबुद्धेः कर्माणि च महात्मनः निधनं च यथैवासीत् इत् स प्रेत्य गतवान् यथा तस्य जन्म महाबुद्धेः कर्माणि च महात्मनः निधनं च यथैवासीत् स प्रेत्य गतवान् यथा
तस्य जन्म महाबुद्धेः कर्माणि च महात्मनः निधनं च यथैवासीत् सप्रेत्य गतवान् यथा तस्य जन्म महाबुद्धेः कर्माणि च महात्मनः निधनं च यथैवासीत् सप्रेत्य गतवान् यथा
तस्य जन्म महाबुद्धेः कर्माणि च महात्मनः निधनं च यथैवासीत् सप्रेत्य गतवान् यथा
सप्रेत्य second
सप्रेत्य ओके तस्य जन्म महाबुद्धेः कर्माणि च महात्मनः निधनं च यदैवासीत् सप्रेत्ये कदवान् यदा
तदिदं श्रोतुम् इच्छामो कम गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि न श्रद्धधानानां कम यस्य ज्ञानम् अदाच्छुकः. You can break it that more if you want. तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि न श्रद्धधानानां यस्य ज्ञानमदाच्छुकः.
तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि न श्रद्धधानानां यस्य ज्ञानमदाच्छुकः तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि न श्रद्धधानानां यस्य ज्ञानमदाच्छुकः
तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो कदिदुं कदिदुं यदि मन्यसे बृहीनः श्रद्धदानानां यस्य ज्ञानमदाच्छुकः
She's on the second line. Brew a long sound u. Brúhinash shraddha
ब्रूहीनः श्रद्धदानानाम् ओके तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो कदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहिणः श्रद्धदानानां यस्य ज्ञानमदाच्छुकः
Sutau vacha. Apipalad dharma rajaha, pitruvad ranjayan prajaha nispriha sarva kamebhyaha, Krishna padabja sevaya. Sutauvacha apipaladdharmarajah pitruvat ranjayan prajaha nispriha sarvakamebhyah Krishnapadabja sevaya.
अपीपलधर्मराजः पितृवद्रजञ्जयन् प्रजा. Is it correct?
Pitruvad ranjayan prajaha.
पितृवद्रञ्जयन् प्रजाः निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यः कृष्णपादाब्जसेवया.
Which, if you have that id and ra together as dra or something like that in your book,
Yeah,
it would be easier to break it into Pitruvad ranjayan prajaha.
okay, fine. सूत उवाच अपि परधर्मराजाः पितृवत् रञ्जयन् व्रजाः निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्ये कृष्णपादाब्जसेवया.
Sarvakamebhyah, second line.
निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यः सर्वकामेभ्यः कृष्णपादाब्जसेवया.
सुधोवाच अबीबलधर्मराजः पितृवत् रञ्जयन् प्रजाः निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यः कृष्णपादाब्जसेवया सुधोवाच अबीबलधर्मराजः पितृवत् रञ्जयन् प्रजाः निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यः कृष्णपादाब्जसेवया
Sampadah kratavo lokaha. Because we're going to pause there, add a visarga and a comma, lokaha. Mahishi bhataro mahi jambu dvipadipatyam cha, yashascha tridivam gatam. Sampadah kratavo lokaha mahishi bhataro mahi jambu dvipadipatyam cha yashascha tridivam gatam.
सम्पदः क्रतवो लोकाः महिषी भ्रातरो महे जम्बुदीपाधिपत्यं च यशस्त्रिदिवं गतम्. सम्पदः क्रतवो लोकाः महिषी भ्रातरो महे जम्बुदीपाधिपत्यं च यशश्च त्रिदिवं गतम्.
With the second line, the Jambu long U, okay? Jambu Dvipadi.
जम्बूद्वीपाधिपत्यं च यशश्च त्रिदिवं गतम्.
संवद क्रतवो लोकाः महिषी प्रादरो मही जम्बुद्वीपाधिपत्यं स यशश्च त्रिदिवं कदम्
again the jambu and the longu jambu deepadi
भूद्वीपति ओके संवद क्रतवो लोकाः महिषी प्रादरो मही जम्बूद्वीपाधिपत्यं स यशश्च त्रिदिवं कदम्
kinte kamas sura sparhaha. Again you put a visarga there, add it and put a comma. Sparhaha mukunda manaso dvijaha adi jahrur mudam rajnyah comma kshuditasya yathe tare. किन्ते कामासुरस्पर्हाः मुकुन्दमनसो द्विजाः अधिजह्रुर्मुदं राज्ञः क्षुदितस्य यथेतरे.
किं ते कामासुरस्पर्हाः मुकुन्दमानसो द्विजाः अधिजह्रुर्मुदं राज्ञः क्षुदितस्य यथेतरे किं ते कामासुरस्पर्हाः मुकुन्दमानसो द्विजाः अधिजगृह्मुदं राज्ञः क्षुधितस्य यथेतरे.
The first line mukunda manaso, you said manaso, manaso dvijaha.
Okay. Yeah, no
किं ते कामसुरस्पर्हाः मुकुन्दमनसोद्विजाः अधिजघृर्बुधं प्राज्ञः क्षदितस्य यदेदरे
Tuditasya.
क्षुदितस्य ओके sorry किं ते कामासुरस्पर्हा sorry किं ते कामासुरस्पर्हाः मुकुन्दमनसोद्विजाः अधिजघृर्बुधं प्राज्ञः क्षुदितने राजेश
Correct. Shudi.
क्षुदितस्य यदेदरे
Matur.
Rajesh, first line, it is Sparhaha or Sparhaha.
Sparha. Oh, sorry. Was he saying sparhaha there?
Everybody was telling, I think, Sparhaha, so that's why I got it.
Correct. Correct. Sparhaha.
Parha sorry
Sparha. Yeah. Correct. Thanks for correcting, Eugene.
It's Kama Sura also, right? Kama.
Kamas, the is comes there. Kinte kamas surasparhaha.
Thank you.
Matur garbha gato veeraha, comma, sa tadha brigu nandana dadarsha purusham kanchit. So you'll have like a double the there. So you first put a it, kanchit, it and then a comma. Next word will be starts with the da. Dahya manostra tejasa. Dahya mano astra tejasa, but that S is there, so it will go together. Maturgarbhagato veeraha satadha bhrigunandhana dadarsha purusham kanchite dahyamanostra tejasa.
मातुर्गर्भगतो वीरः स तदा भृगुनन्दन ददर्श पुरुषं कञ्चित् दह्यमानोऽस्त्रतेजसा मातुर्गर्भगतो वीरः स तदा भृगुनन्दन ददर्श पुरुषं कञ्चित् दह्यमानोऽस्त्रतेजसा
माधुर्गर्भगदो वीरः सदता भृगुनन्दन ददर्श पुरुषं कञ्चित् दह्यमानोऽस्त्रतेजसा माधुर्गर्भगदो वीरः सदता भृगुनन्दन ददर्श पुरुषं कञ्चित् दह्यमानोऽस्त्रतेजसा
Angushta matram amalam, you can say together, matram amalam, comma, spurat purata maulinam, apichya darshanam shyamam, comma, tadit vasasam achyutam. You can break it that ma. Angushta matram amalam, spurat purata maulinam, apichya darshanam shyamam, tadit vasasam achyutam.
अङ्गुष्टमात्रममलं स्फुरत्पुरडमौलिनम् अपीच्य दर्शनं श्यामं तडिद्वाससमच्युतम् अङ्गुष्टमात्रममलं स्फुरत्पुरडमौलिनम् स्फुरत्पुरडमौलिनम्
Purata. Short U.
स्फुरत्पुरडमौलिनम् अपि च दर्शनं श्यामं तडिद्वाससमच्युतम्
अङ्गुष्टमात्रममलं स्फुरत् पुरडमौलिनम् अभीष्य दर्शनं श्यामं तडिद्वाससमस्युतम्
Sriram, and the amalam kapram you put the pause, okay?
अङ्गुष्टमात्रममलं स्फुरत्पुरडमौलिनम् अभीष्य दर्शनं श्यामं तडिद्वाससमस्युतम्
Srimad Dheerga Chaturbahum, comma, Tapta Kanchana Kundalam, Kshata Jaksham Gada Panim, put a im instead on that ma, comma. Next word starts with the a. Atmanas Sarvato Disham, Paribhramantam Ulkabham, comma, Brahmayantam Gadam Muhuhu. श्रीमद्धीर्घचतुर्बाहुं तप्तकाञ्चनकुण्डलं क्षतजाक्षं गदापाणिम् आत्मनः सर्वतो दिशं परिभ्रमन्तमुल्काभां भ्रामयन्तं गदां मुहुः.
श्रीमद्दीर्घचतुर्बाहुं तप्तकाञ्चनकुण्डलं क्षतजाक्षं गदापाणिम् आत्मसर्वतो आत्मनः सर्वतो दिशं परिभ्रमन्तमुल्काभां भ्रामयन्तं गदां मुहुः श्रीमद्दीर्घचतुर्बाहुं तप्तकाञ्चनकुण्डलं क्षतजाक्षं गदापाणिम् आत्मनः सर्वतो दिशं परिभ्रमन्तमुल्काभां भ्रामयन्तं गदां मुहुः
श्रीमद्दीर्घचतुर्बाहुं तप्तकाञ्चनकुण्डलं शतजाक्षं कदापाणिम् आत्मनं सर्वदोदिशं परिभ्रमन्तमुल्काभां भ्रामयन्तं गदां मुहुः श्रीमद्दीर्घचतुर्बाहुं तप्तकाञ्चनकुण्डलं क्षतजाक्षं कदापाणिम् आत्मनः सर्वतोतिसं परिभ्रमन्तमुल्कापा भ्रामयन्तं गदां मुहुः
अस्त्र तेजस् स्वगदया, comma, नीहारमिव गोपतिः विदमन्तं सन्निकर्षे, comma, पर्येक्षत क इत्यसौ. अस्त्रतेजस्वगदया नीहारमिव गोपतिः विदमन्तं सन्निकर्षे पर्येक्षतक इत्यसौ.
अस्त्रतेजस्वगदया निहारमिव गोपतिः विधमन्दं सन्निकर्षे पर्येक्षतक इत्यसौ.
First line niharam, long e.
अस्त्रतेजस्वगदया निहारमिव गोपतिः विधमन्दं सन्निकर्षे पर्येक्षतक इत्यसौ.
अस्त्रतेजस्वगदया निहारमिव गोपतिः विदमन्दं सन्निकर्षे पर्येक्षतक इत्यसौ. अस्त्रतेजस्वगदया निहारमिव गोपतिः विदमन्दं सन्निकर्षे पर्येक्षतक इत्यसौ.
विधूय तदमेयात्मा, comma, भगवान् धर्म गुब् विभुः मिषतो दशमासस्य, comma, तत्रैवान्तर्धदे हरिः. विधूय तदमेयात्मा भगवान् धर्म गुब् विभुः मिषतो दशमासस्य तत्रैवान्तर्धदे हरिः.
विधूय तदमे आत्मा भगवान् धर्म गुविभुः मिषतो दशमासस्य तत्रैवान्तर्दधे हरिः. विधूय तदमे आत्मा भगवान् धर्म गुविभुः मिषतो दशमासस्य तत्रैवान्तर्दधे हरिः
विदूय ततमे आत्मा भगवान् धर्मकुप्विभुः विशदो दशमासस्य तत्रैवान्तैर्ददे हरिः विदूय ततमे आत्मा भगवान् धर्मकुप्विभुः विशतो दशमासस्य तत्रैवान्तैर्ददे हरिः
ततः सर्व गुणोदर्के कॉमा सानुकूल ग्रहोदये यज्ञे वंशधरः पांडोः. So put a visarga and comma there. Pandoho. Next word on top of the bhuya, there is a ir that goes away. Bhuya pandu ribaujasa. ततः सर्वगुणोदर्के सानुकूलग्रहोदये जज्ञे वंशधरः पाण्डो भूयः पाण्डुरिबौजसा.
ततः सर्वगुणोदर्के सानुकूलग्रहोदये यज्ञे वंशधरः पाण्डोः भूयस्पाण्डुरिवौजसा ततः सर्वगुणोदर्के सानुकूलग्रहोदये यज्ञे वंशधरः पाण्डोः भूयस्पाण्डुरिवौजसा
भूयः if sound go the second line.
भूयः पाण्डुरिवौजसा
ततः सर्वगुणोदर्गे सानुकूलग्रहोदये यज्ञे वंशधरः पाण्डोः भूयः पाण्डुरिवौजसा ततः सर्वगुणोदर्गे सानुकूलग्रहोदये यज्ञे वंशधरः पाण्डोः भूयः पाण्डुरिवौजसा
तस्य प्रीतमना राजा कॉमा विप्रैर्धौम्य कृपादिभिः जातकं कारयामास कॉमा वाचयित्वा च मङ्गलम्. तस्य प्रीतमना राजा विप्रैर्धौम्य कृपादिभिः जातकं कारयामास वाचयित्वा च मङ्गलम्.
तस्य प्रीतमना राजा विप्रैर्धौम्यकृपादिभिः जातकं कारयामास वाचयित्वा च मङ्गलम् तस्य प्रीतमना राजा विप्रैर्धौम्यकृपादिभिः जातकं कारयामास वाचयित्वा च मङ्गलम्
तस्य प्रीतमना राजा विप्रैर्धौम्य कृपादिभिः जातकं कारयामास वासयित्वा च मङ्गलम् तस्य प्रीतमना राजा विप्रैर्धौम्य कृपादिभिः जातकं कारयामास वासयित्वा च मङ्गलम्
हिरण्यं गां महीं ग्रामान् कॉमा हस्त्यश्वान्. So hasti ashwan, remember that word. Hastyashwan nripatir varan pradat swannam cha viprebhyah comma praja tirte sa tirtavit. Hiranyam gam mahim graman hastyashwan nripatir varan pradat swannam cha viprebhyah praja tirte sa tirtavit.
हिरण्यगां महीं ग्रामान् हस्त्यश्वान्नृपतिर्वरान् प्रादात् स्वन्नं च विप्रेभ्यः प्रजातीर्थे सतीर्थवित् हिरण्यं गां महीं ग्रामान् हस्त्यश्वान्नृपतिर्वरान् प्रादात् स्वन्नं च विप्रेभ्यः प्रजातीर्थे सतीर्थवित्
हिरण्यं गां महीं ग्रामान् अस्त्ययस्वान् नृपतिर्वरान् प्रादादस्वन्नं स विप्रेभ्यः प्राजादीर्ते स दीर्तवित्.
The second line is Prajatirthe, okay. And then the first line, when they remembered Hasti, which is elephant, Ashwa, which is horse, okay. So Hasti Ashwa becomes Hastyashwa. So then the Hastyashwan Nripatir Varan.
Oh, astaswan nripatirvaran.
Yeah.
Okay. Hiranyam kamahim kraman astyaswan nripatirvaran pradasvannam cha viprepyah prajadirte sadirtavit.
Prajatirthe.
Praja. Okay. Prajadirte sadirtavit.
Okay. Next few, say just one time. I want to stop at 20 for you both. Tamuchur brahmanas tushtaha, put a visarga comma, rajanam prashrayanvitam, yesha hyasmin prajatantau, comma, purunam pauravarshava. Purunam, short pu, ru is the long u. Tamūchur brahmanastushtaha rajanam prashrayanvitam yesha hyasmin prajatantau purunam pauravarshava.
तमोचुर्ब्राह्मणा संस्तुष्टाः राजानां प्रशयान्वितम् एष ह्यस्मिन् प्रजातन्दौ पूरूणां पौरवर्षभ.
Go with that first line first. Brahmanastushtaha.
तमोचुर्ब्राह्मणास्तुष्टाः
Yeah.
राजा
तमोऽसुर्ब्राह्मणस्तुष्टाः राजानं प्रश्रयान्विदम् येष ह्यस्मिन् प्रजातन्नौ पुरूणां पौरवर्षप.
Daivena pratighatena. You cannot break that word. Daivena pratighatena, comma. Shukle samstam upeyushi, short e. Rato vonugraharthaya, comma. Vishnuna prabha Vishnuna. Daivena pratighatena shukle samstamupeyushi rato vonugraharthaya Vishnuna prabha Vishnuna.
देवेन प्रतिघातेन शुक्ले संस्थामुपेयुषि रातो वोनुग्रहार्थाय विष्णुना प्रभविष्णुना.
Afterward is Daivena.
दैवेन.
Yeah, correct.
दैवेन प्रतिकादेन देन शुक्ले संसदाम् उभेयुषि राधवोऽनुग्रहार्ताय विष्णुना प्रभविष्णुना.
Tasman namna Vishnurataha. Put a visarga comma. This is where I was telling you Vishnurataha is the one who was protected by Vishnu. Vishnurataha, comma.
विष्णुराधः
Loke Prihachavaha Bhavishyati na sandeho. Bhavishyati na sandeho, comma. Maha Bhagavato Mahan. Tasman namna Vishnurataha iti loke Brihachavaha Bhavishyati na sandeho Mahabhagavato Mahan.
तस्मान्नाम्ना विष्णुरातः इति लोके बृहच्छवाः भविष्यति न सन्देहो महाभागवतो महान्.
तस्मान्नाम्ना विष्णुराधः इति लोके बृहश्रवाः भविष्यति न सन्देहो महाभागवतो महान्.
Yudhishthiro vacha apyesha vamshayan rajarshin, comma, punya shlokan mahatmanah anuvartita svidhyashasa. So that word, if you want to not able to say it together, you can break the dya as it and the ya. So swit yashasa, comma, sadhu vadena sattamaha. Yudhishthiro vacha apyesha vamshayan rajarshin punya shlokan mahatmanah anuvartita svidyashasa sadhuvadena sattamaha.
Rajeshi,
Yeah.
Vamshan, is it Sha and Ya separate?
It's a ish vamshyan.
Vamshan. Okay, thank you.
युधिष्ठिर उवाच अप्येक्ष वंश्यान् राजर्षीन् पुण्यश्लोकात् महात्मनः अनुवर्तिता स्वदृशसा साधुवादेन सत्तमाः.
Say it one more time, Gopiji. So I had one correction there.
युधिष्ठिर उवाच अप्येक्ष वंश्यान् राजर्षीन् पुण्यश्लोकात् महात्मनः
Shlokan in.
पुण्यश्लोकान् महात्मनः अनुवर्तिता स्वदृशसा साधुवादेन सत्तमाः.
That word there, svidyashasa.
Okay, स्विद्यशसा.
Correct.
युधिष्ठिरोवाच अभ्येष वंशयान् राजर्षिन् पुण्यश्लोकान् महात्मनः अनुवर्तित स्वित्यससा साधुवादेन सत्तमाः.
Ashiram, the first line, Vamshyan. You said Vamshayan. You put a full sha there. It's a half ish. Vamshyan Rajashin.
ஒரு தடவை சொல்றேன். யுதிஷ்டிர உவாச்ச அப்யேஷ வம்சயான்
So
ராஜர்ஷின்.
Vamshyan.
युधिष्ठिर उवाच अभ्येष वंशीयान् राजर्षीन् पुण्यश्लोकान् महात्मनः अनुवर्तित स्वत्यससा साधुवादेन सत्तमाः.
Brahmana Uchuhu. Partha Prajavita Sakshat. Put a it, the D you'll have it. You put a it there. Sakshat, comma. Next word starts with the E. Ikshvakuriva Manavaha. Brahmanyas Satya Sandhascha, comma. Ramo Dasharathir Yatha. So I'll kind of say the quick meaning of some of these things as we're going through this. So now the Jataka of Parikshit, so the Brahmanas are saying, that as he, like you said, Yudhishthira goes and asks that, right? So first he says this child will be like Ikshvaku. This king Ikshvaku was a son of Vaivaswata Manu, which we will see later on in Bhagavatam when we see the descendants and the hierarchy and everything. He was son of the Vaivaswata Manu, and then he was actually responsible for taking care of a lot of people. So he'll be like that great Ikshvaku, and then in terms of following the principles, the Brahminical principles, being true to one's promise. So if you make a commitment, sticking to one's commitment, he'll be like Ramo Dasharatha. He'll be like Lord Rama, who was the son of Dasharatha. So in terms of sticking to his promises, right? Brahmana uchuhu partha prajavita sakshat ikshvakuriva manavah brahmanya satya sandhascha Ramo Dasharathiryata.
ब्रह्मणा ऊचुः पार्थ प्रजाविता साक्षात् इक्ष्वाकुरिव मानवः ब्रह्मण्यः सत्यसन्धश्च रामो दाशरथिर्यथा.
ब्राह्मणा उचुगु पार्थ प्रजाविदा साक्षात्इक्ष्वाकुरिव मानवः ब्रह्मण्यः सत्यसन्धश्च रामो दाशरथिर्यथा.
Yesha data sharanyascha, comma, yatha hyaushinaras shibihi yasho vitanita swanam, comma, daushyanti yajvanam. It talks about in terms of being a dhata, like being a great donor, being someone who's very charitable, and 1 hour sharanyascha, whoever you go for protection, the one who will take care of you completely, he will be like the famous king Shibi, right? So you all probably know that story, right? So once to test how great Shibi was in terms of charity and protecting somebody, Yama and Agni, right? They take the different forms. So Yama actually takes the form of an eagle, and Agni takes the form of a pigeon. And this eagle is chasing this pigeon, right? So the pigeon is when Shibi was out doing some charitable work, so this pigeon comes and then it lands on Shibi. And the eagle says, "This is my food, right? So you have to give me my food," which is the pigeon. And the pigeon begs to Shibi, saying, "I've come asking for charity. Please don't give me away because this eagle is going to eat me." So Shibi says, "You know what? I will give you my own body flesh equivalent to the weight of the pigeon." So eagle says, "Okay." So he then has this, the weight balance, and then he puts the pigeon on one side, and Shibi then chops away his flesh and puts it on the other side. But no matter how much he chops, the pigeon was always heavier. So at one point, Shibi is like, the eagle is not willing to accept this, right? So at one point, Shibi is like, you know what, I myself will sit on the weighing scale, right? Because at that point, when he sat on it, the pigeon went up, Shibi went down because Shibi was equal. So then he says, okay, I will give you myself. So at the time, they reveal themselves and then say, you know, Shibi, you are really great in terms of taking care of people who surrender to you and in terms of doing charity. So here they're comparing and saying, in terms of such a quality, he will be, the Parikshit will be like Shibi itself. And then in terms of what do you call, establishing the dynasty, he will be like Bharata, who was the son of Dushyanta. Similarly, like he'll expand the dynasty. एष धाता शरण्यश्च ह्यता ह्यौषी नरशिभिः यशो वितनिता स्वानां दौष्यन्तिरिव यज्वनाम्
एष दाता शरण्यश्च यथाहौषी नरशिभिः यशो वितनिता स्वानां दौष्यन्दिरिव यज्ञनाम्
एष दादासरण्यश्च यदा ह्यौषी नरसिभिः यशो विदनिता स्वानां दौष्यन्द्रिव यज्वनाम्
दौष्यन्तिरिव यज्वनाम्
दौष्यन्दिर इव यज्वनाम्.
Correct. Okay, you can switch here. Priya Sri Kumar, you can be student, and Vijaya, you can be student. So 21. Dhanvinam agraniresha, comma, tulyash charjunayor dvayoho. Tulyascha arjunayor, that word is getting added there. Tulyas charjunayor dvayoho. Hutasha iva durdharshaha, comma, samudra iva dustaraha. So he'll be, he says that in terms of being a bowman, someone who can, handle a bow, he will be as good as Arjuna, because Arjuna was the greatest bowman that was ever. And then, he will be Samudrava Dustaraha, just like how an ocean, you cannot predict the end of an ocean, right? It just keeps going on one side. Similarly, he will be like unsurpassable. It's impossible to surpass him, just like how you cannot completely come to the end of an ocean. धन्विनामग्रनीरेश तुल्यश्चार्जुनयोर्ध्वयोः हुताश इव दुर्धर्षः समुद्र इव दुस्तरः.
Two times.
Two times, yeah.
धन्विनामग्रनीरेश तुल्यश्चार्जुनयोर्द्वयोः हुताश इव दुर्धर्षः समुद्र इव दुस्तरः. धन्विनाम् अग्रनीरेश तुल्यश्चार्जुनयोर्द्वयोः हुताश इव दुर्धर्षः समुद्र इव दुस्तरः.
धन्वीनाम् अग्रनीरेश तुल्यश्चार्जुनयोर्द्वयोः हुताश इव दुर्धर्षः समुद्र इव दुस्तरः. धन्वीनाम् अग्रनीरेश तुल्यश्चार्जुनयोर्द्वयोः हुताश इव दुर्धर्षः समुद्र इव दुस्तरः.
मृगेन्द्र इव विक्रांतो, निषेव्यो हिमवानिव तितिक्षुर् वसुदेवासौ, सहिष्णुः पितराविव. He says he'll be like Mrigendra, he'll be like as strong as a lion, as Nishevyo is the one who can provide shelter like the Himalayas, because the Himalayas is a big mountain, a lot of caves, it can provide a lot of shelter. Similarly, he'll be able to provide shelter like the Himalayas, and then he'll be as Sahishnu Pitaraviva, he'll be as tolerant as his parents, right? No, because you can argue, like even when Ashwatthama was coming, Draupadi said it's okay, let Ashwatthama go, right? Don't do anything to him. So at least in some instances they have shown this tolerance. So like their parents will be very tolerant in general. Mrigendra iva vikranto nishebhyo himavaniva titikshur vasudhevasau sahishnuh pitaraviva.
मृगेन्द्र इव विक्रान्तो निषेव्यो हिमवानिव तितिशुर्वसुधेवासौ सहिष्णुः पितराविव. मृगेन्द्र इव विक्रान्तो निषेव्यो हिमवानिव तितिशुर्वसुधेवासौ सहिष्णुः पितराविव.
मृगेन्द्र इव विक्रान्तो निषेव्यो हिमवानिव दिदिशुर्वसुदेवासौ सहिष्णुपितराविव
Second line,
मृगे
first word, and maybe Priya, for you also, I was not quite sure when you were saying that. It is titi kshur, that ik sound there.
दिदिक्षु
Yeah.
Okay. मृगेन्द्र इव विक्रान्तो निषेव्यो हिमवान् इव दिदिक्षुर्वसुधेवासौ सहिष्णुपितराविव
पितामह समसाम्ये, प्रसादे गिरिशोपमः आश्रय सर्वभूतानां यथा देवो रमाश्रयः. So he says, like his grandfather, which is like Yudhishthira, right? He'll be like the equanimity of mind, right? So he's not going to be bound by this or that. He's going to have a very balanced mind, like how Yudhishthira has. So he's kind of same to everybody. So it's similar to that. Parikshit will have that equanimity of mind like Yudhishthira. And then Ashraya Prasade Girishopamaha, in terms of giving, right? He'll be like Girisha, which is like Shiva, like Shiva is Ashutoshi, so relatively easy to please and get whatever you want. So similarly, he'll be like that. And then in terms of people, Sarva Bhutanam Ashraya, in terms of protecting everybody who is actually there, he will be like Ramashraya, like Yata Devo Ramashraya, even Rama, which is Mahalakshmi, is taking the shelter of Narayana. Similarly, he'll be like that, like Narayana, which means everybody can go and seek a shelter and he will protect them. पितामहः समसाम्ये प्रसादे गिरिशोपमः आश्रयः सर्वभूतानां यथा देवो रमाश्रयः.
पितामहः समसाम्ये प्रसादे गिरिशोपमः आश्रयः सर्वभूतानां यथा देवो रमाश्रयः. पितामहः समसाम्ये प्रसादे गिरिशोपमः आश्रयः सर्वभूतानां यथा देवो रमाश्रयः.
पितामह समसाम्ये प्रसादे गिरिशोभमः आश्रय सर्वभूतानां यदा देवो रमाश्रयः. पितामह समसाम्ये प्रसादे गिरिशोभमः आश्रय सर्वभूतानां यदा देवो रमाश्रयः.
सर्व सद्गुण माहात्म्ये, येष कृष्णम् अनुव्रतः रन्तिदेव इवोदारो, ययातिरिव धार्मिकः. He says, of course, he's following the footsteps of Krishna, right? Krishna is there and Krishna is going to come again to bless Parikshit. So anyway, he's going to follow the footsteps of Krishna. So there's no doubt that he has that complete blessings. In terms of magnanimity, he says he'll be like Ranti Deva. So this Ranti Deva was a king, who was, although he was a Kshatriya, Kshatriyas eat meat because they have to go for battle, they have to go for war, so they need the strength that comes from it. But this Rantideva was always eating only sattvic food because he was actually serving a lot of other sages. So especially Vasishtha and others, he was serving them a lot. So the sages blessed Rantideva. So he says in magnanimity, he'll be like Rantideva in terms of serving other priests and other religious people. And he will be like Yayatir. This Yayati is like the forefather of all these Yavanas, Mlechas, which is the Turks, the Greeks, and everybody is there. He's like the forefather of them because from him, and we'll see I think some of it later, from him come the Purus and all of these Mlechas, Greeks, all of them come from Yayati in terms of dynasty, right? So he was a great emperor. So similarly, he'd also be, Parikshit will be big like Yayati. सर्वसद्गुणमाहात्म्ये येष कृष्णमनुव्रतः रन्तिदेव इवोदारो ययातिरिव धार्मिकः.
सर्वसद्गुणमाहात्म्ये येष कृष्णमनुव्रतः रन्तिदेव इवोदारो ययातिरिव धार्मिकः. सर्वसद्गुणमाहात्म्ये येष कृष्णमनुव्रतः रन्तिदेव इवोदारो ययातिरिव धार्मिकः.
सर्वसद्गुणमाहात्म्ये एष कृष्णमनुव्रतः रन्ति देवैवोद्धारो ययादिरिव धार्मिकः सर्वसद्गुणमाहात्म्ये एष कृष्णमनुव्रतः रन्ति देवैवोद्धारो ययादिरिव धार्मिकः
அஜேஷ்
ஆ.
சாரி இது இதுல மிலேச்சர்கள் சொல்றாளே அது who they are referring to மிலேச்சர்கள்னா ஃபாரினர்ஸா
கிரீக்ஸ்
ஓ கிரீக்ஸ் அப்ப இருந்திருக்கான்னு அர்த்தமா
ஆமா கிரீக் ஆமா அந்த பிகாஸ் இந்த கிருஷ்ணா அவதாரத்திலேயே
ஆ.
when the Jarasandha and the battle போது the mlechas will come.
ஆ.
So they will come with like he will come with like 1 million or 1 crore something, and the Yavana also refers to the Turks. So the Greeks and the Turks will all come and then they'll attack Krishna on the Samayatla. So yeah.
Thank you.
Dhritya Bali Samah Krishne, Prahlada iva Sadgraha Ahartaishoshvamedhanam. So Ahartaisho Ashvamedhanam, but that will come together, Vriddhanam Paryupasakah. So it continues, this will be like, Bali Samaha, similar to Bali Maharaja, this side, very patient like Bali Maharaja, and then he'll be a staunch devotee of Krishna like Prahlada iva Sadgraha, like the big devotee of like Prahlada. And then he'll also perform several Ashwamedha yajnas and everything, and he'll do the right things as a king. Dhritya Bali Samah Krishne Prahlada iva Sadgraha Ahartaishoshvamedhanam वृद्धानां पर्युपासकः
धृत्या बलिसमः कृष्णे प्रह्लाद इव सद्ग्रहः आहर्तैषोश्वमेधानां वृद्धानां पर्युपासकः धृत्या बलिसमः कृष्णे प्रह्लाद इव सद्ग्रहः आहर्तैषोश्वमेधानां वृद्धानां पर्युपासकः
धृत्या बलिसमः कृष्णे प्रह्लाद इव सद्ग्रहः दैशोत्स्वमेधानां वृद्धानां पर्युपासकः धृत्या बलिसमः कृष्णे प्रह्लाद इव सद्ग्रहः आहर्तैषोस्वमेधानां वृद्धानां पर्युपासकः
राजर्षीणां जनयिता, शास्ता चोत्पतगामिनां निग्रहीता कलेरेशः, put a visarga and comma there, bhuvo dharmasya karana. So this is pretty general. He'll say he will be, it says, talks about it. He doesn't talk about his children, but he says that he will be the father of kings who will be very nice, because the kings, in addition to doing their Kshatriya duty, they also have to be good to sages and other religious people. So he'll say similarly, he'll be a father to a lot of kings who will be doing that. Of course, Janamejaya starts being like that, then he commits one mistakes, right? But in general, they'll go that way. And then he'll upkeep, Parikshit will upkeep the world peace, and for sake of religion, he will take care of all of the bad people. And we'll see a little bit of that later on, right? In Parikshit's Charitram as it goes, when he comes and meets Kali and everything, what he does. Rajharshīnām janayita shāstā chotpatagāminām nigrahītā kalhereshah bhuvo dharmasya karanāt.
राजर्षीणां जनयिता शास्ता चोत्पथगामिनां निग्रहीता कलेरेशः भूधर्मस्य कारणात् राजर्षीणां जनयिता शास्ता चोत्पथगामिनां निग्रहीता कलेरेशः भूधर्मस्य कारणात्
राजर्षीणां जनयिता शास्ता चोत्पदकामिनां निग्रहीता कलेरेशः भुवो धर्मस्य कारणात् राजर्षीणां जनयिता शास्ता चोत्पदकामिनां निग्रहिता कलेरेषः भुवो धर्मस्य कारणात्.
And the word nigrahita, long E, okay? The second line. Takshakad atmano mrityum. If you want to break it, the takshakad atmano mrityum, comma, dvija putropasarjitat prapatsyata upashritya, comma, mukta sangah padam harehe. So then they also reveal something very important. Saying first they talk about how great he will be in all these comparisons, and finally they come to the end and say, there will be a key incident in Parikshit's life, in this boy's life, where he, after hearing his imminent death, which will be caused by Takshaka is like a snake bird. We'll see some of that anyways later. But but once he comes to know that he's going to be bit by a snake, Takshaka, and he's going to die, he will, at that point, he will give up everything. He'll be free himself from material attachment and then surrender to the Supreme Lord at that point in his life. That is the incident which is going to trigger that. Where did it go? Takshakadatmano mrityum dvijaputropasarjitat prapatsyata upashritya mukta sangah padam harehe.
तक्षकात् आत्मनो मृत्युं द्विजपुत्रोपसर्जितात् प्रपत्स्यत उपसृत्य मुक्तसङ्गः पदं हरेः. तक्षकात् आत्मनो मृत्युं द्विजपुत्रोपसर्जितात् प्रपत्स्यत उपसृत्य मुक्तसङ्गः पदं हरेः.
तक्षकात् आत्मनो मृत्युं त्वजपुत्रोपसर्जितात् प्रभत्स्यद उपश्रुत्य मुक्तसङ्घपदं हरेः. तक्षकात् आत्मनो मृत्युं त्वजपुत्रोपसर्जितात् प्रभत्स्यद उपसृत्य मुक्तसङ्घपदं हरेः.
Dvijaputro, he'll be because of the son of a Brahmin. Right? Jignasitatma, one word. Jignasitatma yatatmyo, comma, muner vyasa sutadasau, hitvedam nripa gangayam, comma, yasyat yadhakuto bhayam. That's one word. You cannot break that word. Yasyat yadhakuto bhayam. Says, after he's cursed by the son of a Brahmin, and when he comes to know of his death by Takshaka, at that time he will then get a self-knowledge, Atma Jnanam. He'll understand all of that directly from the son of Vyasudeva, who will be a great philosopher, who will be a great saint. And finally, he will then, because of that, Parikshit, once he gets that knowledge, he will then lose all fear. Right? He'll forget, he'll give out, not only renounce all his material attachments, but also there'll be absolutely no worry or no fear for him at his very end. जिज्ञासितात्मयातात्म्यो मुनेर्व्यासस्सुताधसौ हित्वेदं नृपगङ्गायां यास्यत् यद्धाकुतो भयम्.
जिज्ञासितात्मयाथात्म्यो मुनेर्व्याससुतादसौ हित्वेदं नृपगङ्गायां यास्यद्यथा कुतो भयम्. जिज्ञासितात्मयाथात्म्यो मुनेर्व्याससुतादसौ हित्वेदं नृपगङ्गायां यास्यद्यथा कुतो भयम्.
जिज्ञासितात्मयाथात्म्यो मुनेर्व्याससुधातसौ हित्वेदं नृपगङ्गायां यास्यता कुतो भयम्.
यास्यत् यद्धा कुतो भयम्.
यास्यद्धा कुतो भयम्.
यास्यत् यद्धा.
याकद्.
First and the Gangayam after that, right? Yasyat yadha.
In the book, yasya yadda.
Yasyat, it sound is there, right? After that,
Yasyat
yadha.
Oh, yasyat yadda. Yadda,
double that. Although that it is not the right place to stop it, but it's easier to say it that way. Yasyat yadha kuto bhayam.
Okay, yasyat yadha kuto bhayam.
Correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. जिज्ञासितात्मयाथात्म्यो मुनेर्व्याससुधातसौ हित्वेदं तृपगङ्गायां यास्यत्यत्ता कुतोभयम्
इति राज्ञ उपादिश्य विप्रा जातक कोविदाः लब्धा पतिचयस् सर्वे प्रतिजग्मुस् स्वकान् गृहान्. I think this I'll summarize towards the end once we finish this chapter. इति राज्ञ उपादिश्य विप्रा जातक कोविदाः लब्धा पतिचयः सर्वे प्रतिजग्मुस् स्वकान् गृहान्.
इति राज्ञ उपादिश्य विप्रा जातककोविदाः लब्धा पचितयः सर्वे प्रतिजग्मुस्वकान् गृहान्. इति राज्ञ उपादिश्य विप्रा जातककोविदाः लब्धा पचितयः सर्वे प्रतिजग्मुस्वकान् गृहान्.
इति राज्ञ उपादिश्य विप्रा जातककोविदाः लब्धापसितयः सर्वे प्रतिजग्मु स्वकान् गृहान्. इति राज्ञ उपादिश्य विप्रा जातककोविदाः लब्धापसितयः सर्वे प्रतिजग्मु स्वकान् गृहान्.
स एष लोके विख्यातः परीक्षिदिति. If you want to break it, it become parikshid iti yat prabhu गर्भे दृष्टम अनुध्यायन परीक्षेत नरेष्विह. स हेष लोके विख्यातः परीक्षिदिति यत् प्रभुः गर्भे दृष्टमनुध्यायन् परीक्षेत नरेष्विह.
स एष लोके विख्यातः परीक्षित् इति यत् प्रभुः गर्भे दृष्टमनुध्यायन् परीक्षेत नरेष्विह. स एष लोके विख्यातः परीक्षित् इति यत् प्रभुः गर्भे दृष्टमनुध्यायन् परीक्षेत नरेष्विह.
विजय म्यूट लिख के.
Oh, sorry, mute சொல்றேன். स एष लोके विख्यातः परीक्षित् इति यत् प्रभुः गर्भे दृष्टमनुध्यायन् परीक्षित् अनरेष्विह.
परीक्षेत नरेष्विह.
परीक्षेत नरेष्विह. परीक्षेत नरेष्विह. स एष लोके विख्यातः परीक्षित् इति यत् प्रभुः गर्भे दृष्टमनुध्यायन् परीक्षेत नरेष्विह.
स राजपुत्रो ववृधे आशु शुक्ल इवोडुपः आपूर्यमाणः पितृभिः काष्ठाभिरिव सोन्वहम्. The next six, Priya and Vijay, just say one time. स राजपुत्रो ववृधे आशु शुक्ल इवोडुपः आपूर्यमाणः पितृभिः काष्ठाभिरिव सोन्वहम्.
स राजपुत्रो ववृधे आशुश्लुक इवोडुपः आपूर्यमाणः पितृभिः काष्ठाभिरिव सोन्वहम्.
That word is shukla in the first line. Ashu shukla.
Shukla, okay.
Yeah.
स राजपुत्रो ववृते आसु शुक्ल इवोडुपः आपूर्यमाणपितृभिः काष्ठाभिरिव सोन्वहम्.
Yakshamaanoshvamedhena. See, yakshamaano ashvamedhena. But that S symbol is there. So one say it together. Yakshamaanoshvamedhena, Nyati droha jihayasa Raja labdha dhano dadyau. you'll have dadya vanyatra. You'll have that va there. We're going to break it. So put dadyau, comma, remove the va. Next word becomes a. Anyatra kara dandayoho. Yakshyamanोश्वमेधेन ज्ञातिद्रोहजिहाह्यसा राजा लब्धधनो दद्यौ अन्यत्र करदण्डयोः.
ராஜேஷ் எங்களுக்கு என்னோடத்துல ஜிஹாசயான்னு கொடுத்துருக்கு அப்படியா?
Oh, what did I say?
You said ஜிஹாயசா அப்படி சொல்லி ஜிஹாயசன்னு
Jihasaya.
ஜிஹாசயா தானே? ஓகே ஓகே தேங்க்யூ. ஓகே.
यक्ष्यमाणोऽश्वमेधेन ज्ञातिद्रोहजिहासया राजा लब्धधनो दध्यौ अन्यत्र करदण्डयोः.
यक्ष्यमाणो स्वमेधेन न्याधिद्रोहविहासया राजा लब्धधनो दत्यौ अन्यत्र करदण्डयोः.
तदभिप्रेतम् आलक्ष्य, comma, भ्रातरोच्युतचोदिताः. It's भ्रातरो अच्युतचोदिताः, but will come together. भ्रातरोच्युतचोदिताः dhanam prahinam ajahruhu. So you have the ru there. So we remove the ru there. First put a visarga comma. Prahinam ajagruhu visarga comma. Next word starts with the u. Udichyam dishi bhurishah. तदभिप्रेतमालक्ष्य भ्रातरोच्युतचोदिताः धनं प्रहीनमाजगृहु उदीच्यां दिशि भूरिशः.
तदभिप्रेतमालक्ष्य भ्रातरोच्युतचोदिताः धनं प्रहीणमाजगृहुः उदीच्यां दिशि भूरिशः.
तदभिप्रेतमालक्ष्य प्रादरोच्युतचोदिताः धनं प्रहीनम् आजगृहुः उदीच्यां दिशि भूरिशः.
तेन संभृत संभारो कम धर्मपुत्रो युधिष्ठिरः वाजिमेधैस्त्रिभिर्भीतो. You can break there. वाजिमेधैस्त्रिभिर्भीतो कम यज्ञैः samajayat harim. Yamajayat dharim. It becomes a dha, but its word is harim if you separate it. But you can say it samajayat dharim. Tena sambhrita sambharo धर्मपुत्रो युधिष्ठिरः वाजिमेधैस्त्रिभिर्भीतो यज्ञैः समजयद्धरिम्.
तेन संभृतसंभारो धर्मपुत्रो युधिष्ठिरः वाजिमेधैस्त्रिभिर्भीतो यज्ञैः समयजद्धरिम्.
तेन संभृतसंभारो धर्मपुत्रो युधिष्ठिरः वाजिमेधैस्त्रिभिर्भीतो यज्ञैः समयजद्धरिम्.
आहूतो long आहूतो भगवान् राज्ञा कॉमा याजयित्वा द्विजैर् नृपम् उवास कतिचिन्मासान् कॉमा सुहृदां प्रियकाम्यया. आहूतो भगवान् राज्ञा याजयित्वा द्विजैर् नृपम् उवास कतिचिन्मासान् सुहृदां प्रियकाम्यया.
आहूतो भगवान् राज्ञा याजयित्वा द्विजैर्नृपम् उवास कतिचिन्मासान् सुहृदां प्रियकाम्यया.
आहूतो भगवान् राज्ञा याजयित्वा द्विजैर्नृपम् उवास कतिचिन्मासान् सुहृदां प्रियकाम्यया.
Again, the first line after the comma, yajayitva.
याजयित्वा द्विजैर्नृपम्.
ततो राज्ञाभ्यनुज्ञातः. It's राज्ञा अभ्यनुज्ञातः, but you can't break it. So राज्ञाभ्यनुज्ञातः, comma, कृष्णया सह बन्धुभिः ययौ द्वारवतीं ब्रह्मन्, comma, सार्जुनो यदुभिर्भृतः. ततो राज्ञाभ्यनुज्ञातः कृष्णया सह बन्धुभिः ययौ द्वारवतीं ब्रह्मन् सार्जुनो यदुभिर्वृतः
ततो राज्ञाभ्यनुज्ञातः कृष्णया सह बन्धुभिः ययौ द्वारवतीं ब्रह्मन् सार्जुनो यदुभिर्वृतः
ततो राज्ञा அது எப்படி சொல்லணும் மேடம்?
आज्ञा इब् सौण्ड् राज्ञाभ्यनुज्ञातः
यनुज्ञातः ततो राज्ञा यनुज्ञातः
या
कृष्ण
या या नु ज्ञातः यनु ज्ञातः
यनुज्ञातः यनु यनु यनुन् यनुन् यनु यनुज्ञानः ज्ञातः
nu வந்து you're making it nya, that's just a simple na. यनु ज्ञातः
यनुज्ञातः ओके ततो राज्ञा यनुज्ञातः कृष्णया सह बन्धुभिः ययौ द्वारवतीं ब्रह्मन् सार्जुनो यदुभिर्वृतः
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां प्रथमस्कन्धे नैमिषीयोपाख्याने परीक्षित जन्मात् युत्कर्षो सद्या, that is there, you can break it, परीक्षित जन्मात् युत्कर्षो नाम द्वादशोऽध्यायः।
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां प्रथमस्कन्धे नैमिषीयोपाख्याने परीक्षिज्जन्माद्युत्कर्षो नाम द्वादशोऽध्यायः।
இதுல அந்த மாதிரி இல்ல.
Okay. Yeah, maybe you want to write it down, because in the end that will be there, right? So
okay, நான் எழுதிக்கிறேன்.
Okay. All right. So we have about 4 minutes left, right? So I'll just so we were anyway covering the meaning up to 28, right? So where he said in 28 that he will renounce everything after the Takshaka when he comes to know about it. So then continuing from 29, the last 8 stanzas meaning, right? So this way, these people who were expert in all this reading astrology and giving the horoscope, right, started talking to Yudhishthira about Parikshit, right? And then they all got back to their house. So this person, the boy, became known as Parikshit. Now, there are several reasons or meanings of why he was called Parikshit. So one meaning which is given in Bhagavatam in stanza 30 specifically is because he started becoming an examiner, right? So because when he was at birth, right? So once you get the impression of the Lord, so when he was, even before he was born, he had already seen Bhagavan in that full form, and so he cannot get that out of his mind. So every person that Parikshit meets after that, he starts examining that person, right? Saying, is this person, is it the same person that I actually saw before I was born? Because that is so much inculcated in his mind that he cannot get away from it. So he's already constantly contemplating about it, right? So like anytime, when you, even when people are small, and they start liking a particular form of a Lord, whether it be Radha or Krishna or Shiva or Ganesha, a lot of kids like Ganesha, then they start associating themselves more and more with that, right? Because that is getting embedded into their mind. Similarly, for this boy, because that was so much embedded into his mind, he was constantly going around examining everybody, saying, are you that person I actually saw in my mind? He started looking for it. He started searching out for it. That is why he's called Parikshit, which is an examiner as per Bhagavatam here. There are also other commentary where people say, because he was examined before his birth is there, he is called Parikshit. That is another meaning of it, because he was tested before he was actually born. And another commentary I've also heard is, because he was looking around, Ikshata is to look around, and Pari is around. So because he was looking around, because he was born, because Narayana was going around, he is also called as Parikshit. Anyway, it doesn't matter. His name was Parikshit. Here it says because he started examining people. So anyway, so over time, Parikshit started growing up, right? He started under the tutelage of Yudhishthira and everybody else. And at one point, Yudhishthira then felt that, the time, because he's committed so many sins, Yudhishthira still has it as the back of his mind. He felt that he has to perform a few Ashwamedha yajnas to please Hari and Narayana, to get rid of some of the sins that he has actually committed. Because pretty soon Yudhishthira is going to quit his kingdom. So he wanted to perform all of these things. So they go and collect necessary money required to perform this. And of course, Krishna also comes. Krishna comes again from Dwaraka. Krishna comes for this Ashwamedha Yajna that is being performed. And after everything is done, Krishna, that's where the last stanza then says, Yayo Dwaravatim Brahman. Then finally, Krishna, after the Ashwamedha Yajnas are completed, and then everybody starts leaving for Dwaraka Krishna starts leaving for Dwaraka along with Arjuna and a few other members as well. So with that, this birth of Parikshit thing comes to an end in this 12th.
Hello, ஒரே ஒரு meaning. உத்கர்ஷ்னா என்ன meaning?
இது
உத்கர்ஷ்னா அந்த ending prayerல வருது.
Utkarsho is like the birth. I don't know the exact meaning it is, but Parikshit Janma Utkarsho. Janma is the birth. Utkarsho could be maybe like the explanation or something. I'll check and tell you what it is. Utkarsho.
Okay.
But it
Because I have a friend, his name is Utkarsh.
Utkarsh. Okay. Okay. I'll go check. If anybody finds out, tell me. But the net is the birth of Emperor Parikshit is the general title of this.
All right.
Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Gopika Jeevana Smaranam, Govinda Govinda, Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Kahena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhavat karomi yat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rajesh.
Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.